Keep, ma. It is the Cult Film Showdown returning to Masters of Horror. We've been doing this maxi series of episodes on the 2005 to 2007 TV series Masters of Horror, which was a TV mature audiences show that ran 24 episodes in total, 26, something like that. I am Jim Cotta, one of the regular cast of the Cult Film Showdown. I am joined by my co-star, Nick Boxer.
Greeting. No, I don't do that on this one. I'm good. I'm here.
And special guest villain, Jack Hall.
Hey, yo, ka. I'll be your smart ass this episode.
Well, you're half
That'll
right.
be my role. That will be my role. It's a very interesting episode, I think. A returning horror. Well, a returning director icon, I guess you would say. A horror is, definitely got roots. So, I'll be curious to see what you guys think of this episode.
So, who are our masters this time?
Well, as I mentioned, a very famous director, John Landis. Of course, he did Innocent Blood and American Werewolf in London, both of which have a lot of comedy, but are good horrors as well. And, also well known for like Coming to America and Trading Places and a lot of other comedy hits. So, I mean, there's always comedy, it seems, kind of wound into his work, but one of the most successful and famous directors, probably the last 40 years, I would say, 40.
40 now,
yeah. Yeah, I forget how old they are. Very successful man. The other guy, what's his name? Brent Hanley, wrote the film, excellent horror film, Frailty, which starred Bill Paxton.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that was a spectacular film. He hasn't done a lot of other work. He is currently adapting the Bottoms novel, which may be J.R. Lansdale, who people will remember from our first episode, An Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. That was an adaptation of a short story of his. The Bottoms may be Lansdale's best novel, and it's in production right now, and hopefully we'll see it because I think that'll be excellent. I think Hanley will, based on Frailty, will do an excellent job with it. So. So that's who our masters are this episode.
Okay. Mention George Wendt, because, I mean, he stars in one of my favorite low-budget direct-to-DVD horrors of all time, Stuart Gordon's King of Ants.
King of Ants?
I have not seen this.
I have not familiar with this.
It's a hard-to-find movie, but I love the thing. It is just so out there. I just like the movie so much. So
when I think of him, I think in horror. I mean, I go to House, obviously, which is again another comedy in many ways more than a scary film. But his role is he was the neighbor there, but not as creepy. Just the neighbor. He's the friendly neighbor there, not the creepy neighbor like he is in this one.
I didn't think he was creepy at all in this.
What?
No.
Well, tell us about George Wendt not being creepy then, Nick.
All righty. In this episode of Masters of Horror, we are introduced to a character played by George Wendt. He's just a nice guy living in a suburban neighborhood, family man, if you know what I mean. Sure, he's keeping his family close by him in his basement, without skin and stuff. Then occasionally he'll go out for a drive and pick a new family member and bring them back to his house and just keep them. When a friendly couple move in next door or across the street, I think, neighbors anyway, he develops a little bit of a fascination with the woman, and yeah, he sort of targets her to become his new wife and replace the one he has in his house. And well, boy, does he get a surprise when there's a little bit of a twist.
It is always it's always tough when you meet the girl of your dreams and you haven't divorced your first wife yet.
Yes.
Particularly if you have to share a home at the same time. Yeah.
But he's a perfectly nice man.
What are you talking about? He's perfectly nice. When he brings her over for dinner, when her husband disappears, and he brings her over to dinner, he's very controlling and mean. And
but he cooked.
Okay, he cooked. I'll give you that.
That means she owes him.
But he was quite inappropriate. She was not there for a romantic interlude, and he was.
We're talking on the Masters of Horror scale here.
You know, he would. How about how he would creep around and spy in their windows and spy on them from across the street behind, garbage cans and stuff like that. Like he was, he was a peeping Tom type behavior as well.
He might be the least stealthy stalker I've ever seen. He goes around and
George Wendt isn't your idea of stealthy?
Well, I mean the one advantage that guys that somewhat of the build of a George Wendt has is that no one pays is that they're not paid attention to a lot, so they can go a lot of places without anyone ever noticing them.
Yeah, that is probably his advantage. Is he looks so hell. I mean, when he takes his victims, it's because he's so harmless looking that they fall for his shtick, and then he kills them. And
he does follow a lot of people in his car who are on foot in this movie, though.
That is always a tricky one, yeah.
Now, without giving away too much, I did have one major question.
Mm-hmm.
So we see it kind of early. The wife, what was her name again?
Celia.
Celia, played by Meredith Monroe. Celia is and her husband David, played by Matt Kiesler, go over for dinner because they feel bad, or have him over for dinner because they feel bad that drunkenly they ran into his, I guess, cement. What was it?
It's a brick mailbox.
Yeah, brick mailbox, where he happened to have a body buried inside there. And
as one does.
They apparently didn't see it, and so he fixed it, but they felt bad, so they have him over for dinner. And during dinner, Celia, all of a sudden out of nowhere, says the lewdest, most, like, porns aren't this lewd. Like the thing that she says to him, like, I want your big hog in my mouth, and then gets more graphic from there. And you see him go, what? And then she goes, I was saying how happy we are that you come over, or whatever. And you're like, oh, he's having a break for some reality. It turns out that those, again, I don't want to give away too much, but it turns out that maybe he wasn't having a break from reality, and he was being played to a degree. And later on, he's driving around and he's looking for a victim, and they're doing the same thing to him, which makes me wonder which ones were real and which ones weren't. Because when he looks at a girl, she goes, my mother doesn't love me. I'll be much happier with you, when he's like looking for a new daughter, yeah. So what?
I don't think there was any question whether he was having breaks with reality. Yes.
So was she playing him when she said that, or was just by coincidence? Luckily, they knew he was having breaks from reality, and they just played into it. Like, they just made a guess. I think he might be having breaks from reality and thinking in his head things. Like, it's a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a plot hole, but it just left me wondering.
I think his fixation on her is secondary to their plan. all they needed was him to come over to their house.
I'm gonna go with Nick that all of those scenes are in his head.
All of those scenes are in his head. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, like, as Nick said, like it's clear many times that that those things are happening in his head. So to have one thing be done that way, I think he's nuts, but I think he would know the difference still.
Okay. Well, he is nuts, clearly. I mean, he's, but he knows what he's doing is wrong. Otherwise, he wouldn't bother hiding it, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he's taken some steps. There's some really interesting, subtle things in like the steps he takes. They don't that a lesser director would have called attention to them, and it's nice little color to it. Like his house has keyed locks on both sides, which is
get a good view of his house in that opening shot there.
Yeah, like you see quite a lot of the house. It looks like a family home, but
nice framed picture of Dick Cheney.
I love that. That was again a nice little subtle
little
that's
thing.
A very
right?
Landis kind of thing to slide in. Yeah,
I know.
But yeah, that bit, because it comes up a couple of times. You like in a normal home, you don't key both sides of the lock for like very simple reasons. Like you only need to lock the door when you're inside, and then you use a key from the outside. But you do that if you don't want someone to get out of the house. Which I thought was I wasn't sure what it meant the first time that he did it, because I can see if you had someone that had, say dementia or something like that might wander, like there'd be a reason to do that. But there's no real practical reason to do it except to keep someone inside.
So the twist, which I mean, I think we all saw that there was a twist coming. It wasn't quite the twist I expected. Did you guys? What do you guys think of the twist? Without again,
I thought it was really obvious. Actually,
watching, it wasn't the twist I was expecting. I thought there was going to be a twist going in a different direction. But the thing is, we're hoping everybody is watching along, watches ahead with us, but we don't want to spoil it for you who haven't seen it. So it's difficult to discuss the twist. But what did you think then?
I didn't see it coming. I think that I really, really liked this episode. And just going on George Wendt's one of those guys you forget is a really good actor. Like he's so well known for Cheers that you forget that he's like, that he's a craftsman. And I think my one criticism of this is part of like where things go at the end is I don't think everything in the story makes sense given that ending. I think actions that people take and things that the audience watches don't hold with that ending. And like the behavior of people early on, the behavior of people when no one else is around. Nick has alluded that there's something going on with the couple, and the couple doesn't hint at any of that even when no one else is there.
I'll just say that without again giving away too much, the whole thing about when they ran over the mailbox because they were drunk. They were talking about how they were drunk in the car to each other, and yet later revealed they did it on purpose and weren't drunk at all. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Reminds me of watching the A-Team movie when Hannibal and Mr. T or Hannibal and BA, they're like in the truck talking to each other like they never met each other, and then there's nobody else around. Then it's like, well, they're still part of the same team, and I'm like, the guy was like,
yeah,
it takes me right out of it.
Really, like, yeah, very. Maybe they're method and they're just always in those characters.
Yeah. Oh, there's Daniel Day-Lewis over here.
Yeah.
You have a very good point there, but what gave it away for me was they telegraphed it so early in this with the "don't go in the basement" comment the first time he comes over to the house.
Oh, interesting.
I never thought of that. Yeah, but when they finally attack him, they do it in his house, not in their house. And I suspect that as his basement, we'd see at the end, not their basement, because otherwise they would have had to drag a body across the street and could have easily been seen. So that all takes place in his house.
I agree with.
I don't think that
actually agree with both of you. That it doesn't make sense that they moved him, but I do agree with Nick that it is their house.
Really?
Which is weird. I think you're both right that it doesn't make sense to move them, but they did.
In other words, it's just another thing that you can pick apart. This is an episode. Don't pick it apart. Just enjoy the performances and the direction. You know, because it clearly, as we start to talk about it, we pick apart little things and go, I don't know, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it doesn't matter because the enjoyable part is watching George Wendt be a friendly creep.
Yeah, I mean, really, just everything George Wendt does in this episode is really great. He's it's really a showpiece for him. He's got more screen time than anyone, and most of that alone. So he has to convey a lot with looks and what he's thinking and conversations he has with non-existent people. I do have a question about because he has some interest in the neighbor woman, and they show you pretty early on in the episode that he kills people, turns them into skeletons, and then puts the skeletons in the family room. That's like the first 5 minutes. So he's checking out this girl. He's having the inappropriate thoughts at dinner about her. His wife's arguing with him that he's attracted to her. He's like, no. What would I have to see in that 30-year-old blonde woman from next door?
His wife is a skeleton.
His wife's literally.
All his family are skeletons, in case you haven't figured that out yet.
Just figuratively.
But he hears them talk and he sees them as real people. So
yeah. So they talk to him and they surprise him by talking, which is like I thought that part was interesting.
Oh yeah, but, he has arguments and stuff with them.
Yeah, like his wife calls from the house at one point. So like there's his level of absorption in his fantasy is pretty deep that they can surprise him. So he's checking out this way. He's just very attractive. He's got his sights on having her be his second wife. Is he attracted to her skeleton? Because
the guy has a rich interior life and you're all over him, just judgmental.
Like, I mean, I don't have enough hobbies to engage me the way he does. That's fair. I think, but I mean, if he's fantasizing, he can have them look like anything. So he could just have the skeleton he's got look like her. But so it's just the odd sexualization of that process when he's going to immediately remove all of her flesh. That just struck me as so. It's not a flaw with the story. It's just so super weird.
Yeah, it's like I said. Don't pick apart the story.
I don't think it's a negative. It's part of the it's just part of that fantasy world that he's created, that like he still has to connect the image he's seeing with like the person they were, which is a really like fascinating extra level, considering what he does do.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I think we all enjoyed the episode, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a good slow burn story. There was like I was saying about the the Dick Cheney picture. There's a lot of those little. Landis is great at set decoration bits of just sneaking things in that are, and again, not calling attention to them. George Wendt's wife is she's reading the Weekly World News every time that he's talking to her. The late
I never
lamented
noticed that.
news. It's the supermarket tabloid that was full on the things that People Say National Enquirer did. Space aliens meet with each presidential candidate before the elections and have an endorsement. Elvis is alive every 6 months, that kind of thing. It's been out of publication for a long time, but I thought it was a really nice nod.
It's web only now, isn't it?
They mostly social media. Yeah, they have like they have like an Onion style website, and then I mean, really, they sell it. They really push it on the strength of the headlines alone, the headlines and then the graphic. Their Facebook group is great. Or Facebook page is great. I was a big fan of the paper when it was out. Not a big enough one to keep it going, obviously, but
yes, it is your fault alone.
Yeah, I like to I just like to apologize for things that couldn't possibly be my fault. It really builds up the number of times that people say, no, that wasn't you. Before I do want to give some kudos to something that happens in this episode that, for reasons of simplicity, doesn't happen in most horror. Bones don't stay together as a skeleton. And it's one of those things that people just accept happens in horror movies all the time, because like, what else do you do? That once you remove all of the flesh and tendons and muscle, a skeleton is just a pile of bones.
But he invented a preservative of some sort as well.
He did, but
couldn't that attach the bones?
I think he probably knows that, and he was quite detail oriented, to say the least. And I think he probably would have assumed that and found a way to keep those bones together.
What I'm saying is, in the story, he does. You watch him do it. He has this elaborate like wiring thing to hold all the skeletons together.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so he actually fixes the thing that most horror movies just skip.
Skip for ease.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He bleaches the bones. They show him do that, which is how he preserves them. But yeah, all of those skeletons are wired to hold them in place, which I thought was like a really interesting element. And the number of times I've seen like someone find a skeleton that's exactly arranged in the way it was.
Jack, I don't know about you, but I'm adding Jim to my creep list now.
Yeah, he knows
the mere
that.
fact that he knows that and knows that
means that he's jumped ahead of you suddenly.
Has anyone
most
seen
likely
his
to be a
neighbors
serial killer.
recently?
Yeah, I haven't even seen my neighbors recently.
And
now that you
have you
mentioned
ever
that
met Lacey? I'm sorry.
My neighbor's house has been empty for months now that I think about it.
I'm starting to wonder.
I don't think I'm really. I don't think that's a really deep dive information about human anatomy that you might be suggesting.
Now, was there any Canada spotting?
I had no Canada spotting for this one.
No Canada spotting, because I'm pretty sure it was filmed in Canada. The way that looked like a Vancouver setting to me.
It does have that. It does have that feeling to it.
Most of it was indoors, so Canada spotting would be like you'd have to have been in that specific house.
Yeah, I thought maybe the old woman you recognized from something.
I didn't have any of those. Yeah, I didn't have any of those in this. The one actor besides George Wendt I did recognize. I know from American films. So he is American too. Matt Kiesler, who's the neighbor husband. He played Fade in the TV miniseries of Dune. So the part that was played by Sting in the movie and will be played by Austin Butler. Nice crowd to be in, that guy.
Yeah, no, just looking him up right here, and he's retired from acting.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's 50 years old. He's retired from acting. He's a certified physician assistant.
Wow.
So,
So
yeah.
he did this, and then he's like, I think medicine is where I belong.
It looks,
I
yeah,
didn't go to medical school, but I played one in a TV movie one time.
yeah, he plays the doctor in this. So, yeah, his last, he's done, since 2010, he's done one thing.
Huh.
One episode of Grimm. So, that's it.
I now want to know if he played a doctor in that too.
His name was Sven Gunderson in that. So just based on it, he was a Viking.
Sven Gunderson. I thought it'd be a good guess. Yeah.
You know what? He played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. or Jekyll. Is it Jekyll?
That's the proper spelling of Jekyll. Yeah.
Yeah, and he played Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the 2007 adaptation of Jekyll with yeah, he was the lead in that. So he has played a doctor more than once.
Interesting. Ooh, at a 3.6 on IMDb. I wonder, maybe I'll look that one up.
Yeah, that's good, right?
That definitely should float to the top of my list. But not, I mean, King of the Ants actually is going to float there. Going to get right into the queue after that.
King of the Ants, got to find that now. But yet again, you found, what is it? Jesus Christ Meets Hitler. I mean, if you can find that,
just
you
watch
can find anything.
Just did watch that between the last time we recorded and now. Did finally watch Hitler Meets Jesus and by Michael Moriarty, and it's a really interesting piece. It's basically his stage play with done in Canada, shot in Canada, takes place in Canada, and yeah, it's an interesting little piece for what it is.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it doesn't. You make it sound like it's not crazy and.
No, I wouldn't say.
There.
No.
So,
No, it would not chart at all. I mean, it's a lot of over the top. I mean, it's Michael Moriarty, so like he's chewing up some scenery, and he's performing the size of a stage performer for a 16 millimeter film. So, so it's a little big.
But I was hoping it would be, since he seems to have taken a break from reality himself, in some ways. I was hoping for some of that.
Well, I mean, I think the premise itself, the premise itself is kind of nuts. So once you absorb the premise, like the piece itself doesn't seem as crazy. If you were just handed it and started watching it, I think it would be.
Yeah.
I know when we all heard the title, we were like,
just we were the title. All excited.
Yeah, just the concept itself was wacky. So, but yeah, if you can track it down, I had to go deep into the gray web to find that one. All right. Any last thoughts on Family?
No, good episode, but it won't be one that I will go back and watch again, likely. Just one I enjoyed at its time.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was subtle enough that a couple months from now you might start thinking about it and just want to check it out again. There's a lot of little details in there.
Well, we know James will. James will be like, how was it he kept those skeletons together again?
I think Family Man would have been a better title than Family, but...
Oh, that is a good title. I wonder what a fan edit of
this makes it sound like he's in the mafia.
I might do a fan edit of this that like cuts out all of the extra characters. It's just him wandering around. Any other character, anytime that someone really speaks to him.
You got to keep in the lewd statement said to him because those were awesome.
Yeah, just cut it out with no context and then put it away for a few years so I don't remember what the context was.
I bet you have a massive penis. Just out of nowhere. Yeah. I love that, it just occurred to me he's having a break from reality, and she's saying things like, you got a huge hog and whatever. And this guy, he certainly, either he does or he thinks well of himself.
His how people talk to him is really unusual. Because when you're given that context, like when you reverse that context of like how many things are said to him that didn't happen, like so yeah, he said all of those things to himself.
Yeah. 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 Very
She says something
strange.
like, "I'm gonna make you come so good," and I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. Like that's
Yeah.
just a strange phrasing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hot, but
But it's when you
but when you
lay
think of
on,
it, he's thinking it to himself. It's not so
yeah.
hot anymore.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing to say. Oh, that's an amazing lens to put on it.
Wait, are you saying in your own fantasy life that you give yourself a smaller penis?
I'd like to think it's accurate. No sense in disappointing myself by actually looking down. But
All right, well, let's wrap up this one. That we had obviously had a lot of laughs talking about this one, and a lot of enjoyment watching it. So put this one into the keep pile of masters of horror.
C-list for sure.
And so we are well into season 2 now. Next episode, we will be talking about season 2, episode 3, the V word. And you've got till next time to guess what the V word is.
It's not virgin. So that is scary.
From Jack and Nick, and from myself, Jim, please follow us on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube to our channel. And we're also on your favorite podcast app. And we're sponsored by We Talk Podcasts, home of the Octagon, which has all of our back catalog and has a searchable list of all the films that we've covered on the Cult Film Showdown. And we are also on Patreon. So you can, if you want to chip in and pay for my brick mailbox, because I have a need for one right away, you can do that on patreon.com and search Cult Film Showdown.
Yeah. And I'm sorry about the all the other podcasts on that feed that aren't supposed to be there.
I think that we've well, last I checked, I think we're on track with it, but listen to anything that shows up.
Oh yeah, what the hell? Listen to it all and twice.
Yeah. Rate and review that. I hear that helps.